So this is literally like the sketchiest part that I hate doing. So Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to do this by yourself, could you do it? Pull that bolt out and that thing goes down, it's gonna go flying and you can definitely hurt yourself or other people.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. Exciting day. We're gonna be putting coilovers on the Tesla. I have new wheels, it looks good, but we have this gap there that just doesn't look right. So I wanna make it look cooler with these unplugged performance coilovers. I've actually had these for quite a few months now. So I called a gentleman who specializes in EV repair and maintenance. His name is Joel. He owns Evolution Mobile, and this is what he does for a living. He has his own business and he maintenances EVs and works on them all day long. So I feel more comfortable with him showing me how to do this, and I'm excited to get these coilovers on and make the Tesla lower. What's up, dude? Nice to meet you. Hell yeah, I got the car in the back. You want to pull right in?
Sounds good.
Of course you work out of a Tesla. This is Joel from Evolution Mobile. Thank you for coming out today,
No problem, man. Thanks for having me out.
So we're gonna get started, man, and
Okay.
I hope not to be in your way, but I'll probably, you know,
No problem. I'll put you to work.
All right,
I'll
cool.
put you to work.
Let's do it.
All right.
Where do we start? Wheels off?
So let's pull the wheels off. Are those 21 millimeter lugs, or you got special ones on there, or what?
They're special ones. I couldn't tell you what size they are. You need anything out of the trunk to get access back here, or no?
No, nothing. All the rear stuff is all from the outside. It's reminiscent of a lot of newer cars.
Okay.
Like I've done a lot of work on Mustangs and stuff like that. So like the rear shocks, they attach like the Mustangs, or a lot of Ford products do now.
So are you strictly EV? I mean, or just Tesla? Or are you kind of?
I mean, I can work on anything. My business is based around EVs.
Okay.
Which is at this point about 99% Teslas, because that's your main market out there. You know, there's not much out there. So, you know, I'm doing a bunch of different stuff. So like aftermarket installs of stuff. So I've done like power trunks, power frunk stuff, coilovers. I've done some of those.
I see you do a lot of maintenance.
Yes,
services too,
there
like,
is some maintenance that.
like the door handles not working.
Yeah, so your car doesn't have the fancy ones that pop out, but on the Model S, they do a thing called present. So when you walk up, they pop out.
Yeah.
That fails a lot of the time. There's a little gear inside there that breaks. So Tesla, when that breaks, Tesla's a strictly replace company.
Okay.
So like when you bring it in, like, oh, my door handle's broken, they're like, okay, you need a new door handle. It's $1,100.
They just replace it.
They just replace the door handle. That's it. When you can change it out and get the part out of there. So here, let's see. These two little tabs break off on this gear that pushes that out. So
and you can just replace that part.
You can just replace the part. So I have new gears right here. These are made of stainless steel, so they're not going to break. These ones are just cheap pot metal type gears. So
so you're even upgrading it.
Yeah. So it's upgraded. There's
and probably for how much? Like
about $250.
a quarter of the price.
All right. So on this thing, so what we're going to do is we're going to first, there's a plastic cover underneath here.
Okay.
We'll get a 10 millimeter and pull that cover off. I believe it's two 15 millimeter bolts up here. So what we'll end up doing is we'll be taking the shock out. Then what we'll do is we'll put a jack underneath. We'll probably lower this down a little bit and I'll get my jack out. We'll put the jack underneath the control arm here. Yep. We'll pull the bolt out for the knuckle, and then we'll slowly let the control arm down, which will release the tension on the spring. And we can pull that spring out. We can start swapping the rear pieces together. Excellent. The rear is the easier of the two because there's not a lot. The fronts, we got to compress the spring. So under here in the back, there's a 10 mil. Let's go ahead and drop that down. So if you want to go grab the other side there. Yep. We have two 15 millimeter. And they're captured, so they're not gonna go anywhere. They'll stay with the strut top. Now the next thing we'll do is we're gonna pull the shock. So then pull our bolt out, and then just gently rotate the shock out. You want to go ahead and get that side? Or you want me? Okay. I'll get my floor jack out.
Okay.
And then we will we'll lower the car down a little bit so we can get that lower control arm mount out. Like I said, the rear's not too bad.
No, so far so good.
Realistically, it's setting the ride height takes some time, but they should have some specs in there where we can kind of measure it out and get it kind of set ahead of time. I know we talked about this before. Really, the only thing I can't do right now is alignment-wise. Yeah. But you gotta drive the car for a day or two, let that thing settle before. And
then go get an alignment.
Yeah, let the car kind of settle out. All right, so next step here is we're gonna take and remove the bolt here from this control arm, spring bucket, whatever you wanna call it. And then we have a jack underneath here. We're gonna slowly let that down. This is probably the most dangerous part of this whole thing is when these springs are compressed, they're full of stored energy. Okay. If you pull that bolt out and that thing goes down, it's gonna go flying and you can definitely hurt yourself or other people.
That's what was making me nervous about doing this.
And then once that's down, we can go and push the spring bucket down a bit. And now it's just kind of fishing the
spring out of there.
The spring out.
Goodbye, springs.
You want to try that side yourself, or?
I'll give it a shot.
I'll supervise. All right. So the rear's apart.
Nice.
Now we just gotta follow the instructions on how to put it back together. So we're gonna need these washers here, it said. So they're saying just to basically set it at 50% in the middle there, and then go from there.
Okay.
And that's something like you have access to the lift, so you can actually just get up and lift a little bit.
Yeah.
And get your hand in there and just adjust that.
Perfect.
So this will be right up at the top where that mount is that we took off. We'll have to transfer that mount from the stock shock to this shock.
Okay.
So we're about 28 millimeters here. And we're 28 millimeters here, so.
Leave it the way it is.
We'll run with that from their setting, and we'll see from.
Okay.
We put it down, either it's gonna be monster truck, good, or it'll be slammed super low. And then the fronts here, let's see what they're all locked in place too, so.
That's a lot of room. You can go up and down, huh?
Yeah, well, a lot of the bodies are all just kind of universal type.
Okay.
So like you'll have different shaft lengths and stuff. So when a company's building these things, they're not building it 100% custom. They're like, okay, I need this, and okay, this will work. We can make it work in this situation. So they're just kind of threaded all the way through. These are nice too because this collar here adjusts the preload or how much tension's on the spring. This down here, there's threads inside here, and this is what adjusts your height. Okay. So on like cheap coilovers, what they'll do is that they won't have this, it'll be a solid, and then your preload is what adjusts your height as well. So that can change the dynamics of how the car reacts. Okay. So preload is how much tension's on this spring. So by
that'll be a softer, harder ride?
It's gonna change how it's gonna react, how the spring reacts. So if more preload, it's gonna make it like a stiffer spring, less preload, a little bit softer type of spring. So in this case here with these are nice because you can undo this collar here and just adjust the actual height of the coilover instead. So, but we just want to find we just want to pick one measurement spot, and that's what we'll stay with, so that we're not guessing as we go. Right. And so I'm always using millimeters because it's easier to read millimeters than it is to try and read fractions. And you're trying to tell someone that it's easier when you say 23 millimeters than whatever fraction we're on. So we'll use the bottom of the lip here. Okay. To here, so we're at about 65 millimeters here. And we're at 65 millimeters here, so they're all set the same height, or they're all set from the factory. We'll run with that and we'll adjust it as needed, okay? You gotta clean that off before you put it on. So those are our upper spring perch bushings. Okay. So that'll help isolate noise, and those will fit into here. And then on the bottom here, these have like an O-ring on the underside here. So, because if you use the stock ones won't fit correctly like that. And then while we're over here, we'll get our stock shock. We'll swap the mounts out on that.
Okay, so we're gonna use that top mount.
Yeah, we're gonna use the top mount on here. So there's a rubber cap on here we gotta take off. Okay, inside here, I think it's a 17 millimeter bolt. So now we'll see how cooperative it wants to be today. Okay, so inside here, this white piece here, yep. This is your bump stop. So this is when you're driving, you hit a big bump, this goes down, this is what compresses to stop you from bottoming out your shock and blowing the shock out. So this has them built in here already, and the cover already, so we're all good to go. So I put this on, and they give us a torque spec on here of 27 foot-pounds. When you're doing these, you want to make sure you follow the torque specs they give you. They're there for a reason. No one sat down one day and was like, I'm just going to make up numbers.
That's not very tight, though.
You don't need a lot of tightness, though. This is being pushed up by the control arm. This is being pushed against the body, so that's really going to go where?
Yeah, right.
Nowhere. So these are generally just a lighter torque. Okay.
There you go, perfect.
And then just swap over the cover back on here. Okay, and that's it. That guy's done. Okay, so we got these all set up. So these perches here are just gonna go inside here, like that, and just it's providing some isolation between the body and the spring setup here. So let's go ahead, let's take this one over to the car, and we'll put this one on. Let's just make sure. Okay, so that's gonna fit in the hole. This is gonna go up top here. There you go. All right, let go. Okay. So now we'll grab the floor jack and we'll lift this up. Okay, so now once we get the nut on here,
yeah,
you can go ahead, you can pull the
jack out.
Pull the jack out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosely install the bottom bolts. Then what we'll do is we'll put the jack back underneath. We're gonna raise it up to simulate ride height, and then we'll torque them all down. If you torque the bolts down like this, what can actually happen is you can actually damage the bushings because they're down and they're torqued in that position. When you put the car down, they're gonna twist.
Yeah.
So you can actually accelerate the bushing wear by doing that. Okay. So you always want to torque them at ride height. Some guys like to, if we had a drive-on lift or something, that'd be the best, but you can simulate it by just put the jack underneath and kind of jacking that wheel up to about height and tightening it down.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go do the other side then. You want to take charge of that side?
Nope, you're doing great.
See, it's not too bad. It's always that, I'm sure with all your detailing stuff, the first time you cut the paint on a car, you were like, oh God.
Yeah, you want to just have that confidence that you're doing it right.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's see. It doesn't really matter which one goes where, but. So on here, this is your adjuster. So there's actually like little clicks you'll feel. Okay. So 32 levels of adjustment. So clockwise is gonna be your tightening, counterclockwise is your loosening. So what I always do is spin it all the way up. So we have 32, divide that by 2, you get 16. So we're gonna basically just spin this back 16 clicks. Okay. 14, 15, 16. You can feel it on your fingers. So go ahead and give it a try.
Which way
it does, turn it this way, yep. So go all the way till it stops, and then you're gonna feel do you feel those clicks? So you're gonna go 16 clicks. All right, so that's all set at 16?
Yep.
Okay, so this is basically the reverse procedure of how we took them out. So drop them in, go in this way, this goes down to the mount, and then up, and then you can just use your fingers to get these started. See the little washer on here? Yep. That's what keeps them captured so they don't come free. Okay. So when you take this apart, you want to lose them. We'll just get everything kind of roughed in there. So once you get a couple threads in there, here, go ahead and it's set on low. Okay, and then swap this over, and then that's set for 30 foot-pounds.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just go get the other side set. All right, so we got the bottom bolts. You got your bottom bolt in?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I don't have it in, I just have it laying here.
All right.
That was easy?
Yeah, then we can actually go through and put that covers
back on.
So, and these hooks will hook onto the bolt for the shock.
Okay.
And then the bolt goes up through the middle.
Got it.
All right, so we got some stock parts here.
All those down there, I'll wrap them up and store them somewhere.
So that's the rear. The rear's not too bad.
Nope.
The front's a little more involved, but nothing super crazy. We need to get into the front.
Yep.
All right, so we'll remove this panel up here. Pops right off. So this is your access to your 12-volt battery. When that dies, they're actually pretty easy to change out.
Okay.
So
what are you seeing as a mileage around
we're seeing about 3-ish years on Model 3s.
Okay.
It all really all kind of depends on how much you drive. So if you drive a lot, the 12 volt actually lasts longer. If it sits around more, then the 12 volt tends to degrade more. So underneath this cover here, we pull this up and plug our button. So we have 2 10s here, 2 10s here, one over there. So here's under the hood. There's your motor. You have your air conditioning pump here. You have your heat. You know, a lot of it, you still have your master cylinder like you would in a normal gasoline car.
Oh, and it's got a super manifold.
Yeah, super manifold. So actually back here is what they call the octa valve. So it's an 8-way valve that they really stepped it up on the cooling system on these things. Yeah. That's why the performance models, they did so much better than the Model S did, because they actually could keep the battery cooler. The new S, the Plaids that are coming out now, they have the same type of system now, so that's why I know Brooks from Drag Times, he took his Plaid out and he knocked off like 920 quarter mile times, like 4 or 5 of them in a row, which is crazy. So now the strut is held in by these 3 bolts here in the top hat. Then there's this bolt, that one, and one under here. These 4 that hold the upper mountain that holds the upper control arm. Service manual says you need to remove these bolts and pull it out, which affects your alignment, your camber. Okay. So let me go grab something real quick. There's a 13 millimeter socket or nut here. If you get the right size socket and turn it down with the lathe a little bit, it'll go in there, and then you don't have to take out those other 4 bolts. Nice. So you can just do it that way instead. It's a gear wrench 13 millimeter from Amazon, and I threw it on a lathe and I took off about 1.6 millimeters off it. So this is what'll save your butt on it. Okay. Taking out the other mounts, a little bit more work, I feel, and then like I said, if you're not getting alignment, because like most people, if you're doing this yourself at home, you're not gonna have access to an alignment rack right then and there. So if this gets all messed up, you're gonna have all goofy camber and stuff. So this way it retains the stock camber, and at least you know it's in some kind of setting. Yeah. You don't have one that's like in, one that's out, and all that kind of stuff. So for this, now that we got this apart, we should lift the car up a little bit more to give us, so we're not working on the floor too much. So the front, there's a little bit more for us to take apart here. We're gonna have to take off the sway bar, the end link here, just the top. Yep. So you can see it's got a Torx bit inside there. Yep. And then it has a nut on the outside. I think it's an 18. Sometimes you can get this off with just like an impact. If you don't have an impact, you want to take and put like a wrench on here, and how we do it in the rear shocks, okay. Just kind of unscrew it. We'll get that out of the way. We're gonna take off the pinch bolt here for the upper control arm. Yep. We'll remove the ABS wire, set that off to the side. We move the pinch bolt, we'll pop up the upper control arm. On the outside here, there's 2 bolts for the upper control arm. We're gonna take and we'll end up loosening those up so we can move the control arm more. It'll give us a little more room to pull this out. This whole big silver thing up here, that's that whole big piece I said those other 4 bolts would take out. So you could drop this whole upper control arm, everything together. There's a bolt down here for the shock and the strut that goes to the control arm. And then we'll pull off the bolt here for the brake line, let that kind of hang off to the side. So not a ton of stuff. This is a 15 millimeter and a T50 Torx on this side. Like I said, this I don't recall. I'll let you know once we get to that point. So let's get cracking on that. I'll do this side. I'll kind of walk you through. Then you can do the other side then. This is a pinch bolt. So the bolt goes through here. There's actually a groove in the ball joint. Okay. It holds the bolt in, and then this pinches in too as you tighten it down. So you want to take and push down on the upper control arm. See a little bit of movement in there? Yeah. Push down, push the bolt, and then just slowly kind of let the upper come out. So this is the groove, so this bolt goes through there and kind of locks it all in. So now we're all loose here. So all we got is those 13 millimeters on the top. Okay, so I'm gonna come over on this side here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use one hand to hold the strut, loosen these guys up, which is a 13 millimeter. And this will just allow this to kind of have a little bit more movement in it. And we'll have to, since we're lowering the car anyways, we wanna make sure that this is adjusted anyways, because it could cause that bushing damage we were talking about. So if we loosen up, now we can slide that all the way up. There we go.
See how rusty those things are already?
So this is not bad. Pretty easy. You want to go ahead and tackle the other side, or you want me to get that? Or?
I'll go for it. I'll try it.
There we go. So we got driver and passenger side out. So here's our passenger, that's our driver's side. So we want to match these up so that we have the right angles here. We have the right angles on our sway bar mounts. Now, this is the part where we take the danger level of that and ratchet it up a notch. This is a spring compressor. So what we'll do is we'll put this on and use this, and we'll actually compress this down so we can take off the top hat, and then we'll swap them over to the new ones. So this is literally like I said, the sketchiest part that I hate doing.
Yeah.
Because I've seen these things let go and they're no fun. You know, usually a wall mount one is one that we typically use in a shop. Felt that pop?
Yep.
So you can see how much it expanded. I mean, when they were together like that. So we can go ahead and you can grab all that, take that. This is all we needed. So it's got a machine lip on there, and that's gonna go inside here. Then that goes on top like that. So now what we can do is we'll try and compress this a bit, so it'll make us pulling that collar up a little bit easier.
I can do that if you want to.
Okay.
Teamwork.
There we go. Don't look at it already, it'll make you disappointed in how much it moved. 2 millimeters. You start thinking all the work you put in for that 2 millimeters.
Ugh. 64.
Whew. All right, we'll come back to this one. Let's give that a break. So now we just want to go ahead and tighten up the lock nut on here, get that tightened up. All right, and then this will be ready to go back into the car. So now you'll see on here, these are not spaced apart the same.
Right.
So these two are closer, it's further away. So the two closer ones go on the back side here.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna come around the shock, around the CV axle. Okay, it's important, the bolt always goes facing forward.
Okay.
So see how it's angled back that way?
Yeah.
That way, even though the nut falls off, it's very little chance of that thing popping out.
Right.
If you put it in facing backwards, if that bolt comes, or the nut comes off, it could fall out backwards and the whole thing can come apart. So you always want to make sure it's facing the correct way.
And you'd have a really bad day.
That would be a terrible day. So what we'll do here, let's go ahead and lower it down a little bit so we can put the jack underneath there.
Okay.
And get that bolt tightened up, put the other side together, and then the wheels go back on and we'll see how slammed it is.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully it's not too crazy. Well, it depends how crazy you want to go.
I don't know. I haven't decided.
All right, let's grab the other shock.
All right. Can I put the back wheels on, or?
Yeah. So Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to do this by yourself, could you do it?
It would have never happened.
No,
Absolutely.
not beforehand, but now that you've done this.
If I had to do it myself,
Could you do this by yourself now?
I could do it, but I don't want to. You really don't want to.
Okay.
All right, everybody, it's been 3 weeks. I've been driving around the car for about a week, and then I just got it back from Tesla. They did an alignment on it for me. Joel, the car looks absolute amazing. The suspension is so much better than the stock suspension. It's much stiffer. It almost feels like a little more of like a race car now, as much as a Tesla can actually feel like a race car. But I love it. I love the look. I love the style. I love the height of it now. I'm not sure if I'll go a little bit lower, and the wheels could pop out a little bit to have some better fitment, but overall, I'm really happy. If you guys want to get a hold of Joel for any of your Tesla maintenance needs, I'll put a link in the description for you guys. But otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.